This is Galactic Commander Vree of the Supreme Armada. Earth has 36 hours to comply or be pacified. Earth replied with a video, a man in a bathrobe, sipping coffee beside a rusted submarine. Morning, Commander. Lovely day for an invasion. Mind holding off until my coffee kicks in? He winked. Seemed funny, until the oceans boiled, and Earth's waters vomited up something that should never have existed. Galactic Standard Time, 0400. Target Sol 3 Earth. Mission, enforce compliance, establish orbital lockdown, and await diplomatic submission. Commander Vree hovered silently on the command dais of Triumph Supremus, flagship of the Supreme Armada. A dozen species flanked him, bipedal tacticians, eyeless data synthesists, one floating cube with a pulse rate faster than a machine gun. His tendrils twitched in anticipation as Earth rotated into full visibility. Primitive communications disabled, one officer announced. Satellite grid is down. No response to the ultimatum. Vree let the silence hang. The humans had been given 24 hours to surrender peacefully. That was 15 hours ago. Begin orbital lockdown. I want every major city under our shadow. Let them see the ceiling of inevitability. His voice was smooth, practiced, rich with a cultured superiority. Outside, massive shadow engines thrummed. Above Earth, the sky darkened, not with nightfall, but with ships. Millions of lives looked up. Some screamed. Others took selfies. Then the feed chirped. A signal. From Earth. Vree raised a brow. Display it. The screen flickered. Static. Then, a man. In a bathrobe. Hair tousled like he hadn't slept. A chipped mug in one hand. Coffee steam curled lazily into the air. Morning, the human said cheerfully, waving with a pinky. Elias Rourke, acting diplomatic liaison for Earth. He took a sip, winced. Still too hot. Anyway, I hear you want to talk surrender. Thought I'd say hello before we all got too dramatic. Silence in the command deck. One of Vree's junior officers blinked 3 times, a signal of internal error. Vree cleared his throat. Human, you stand before the Supreme Armada. You will address us with the respect owed to your new sovereigns. Rourke smiled. Oh, no disrespect intended. Just, wasn't sure if we were starting with threats or small talk. Would have worn a tie otherwise. You are surrounded, Vree hissed. Your satellites are gone. Your species is cornered. Rourke nodded thoughtfully. Appreciate the thoroughness. Your ships cast a nice silhouette, by the way. Very ominous warlords descending from the heavens. You folks rehearsed that? A nervous laugh escaped from somewhere in the back of the bridge. Vree shot a glare. It died immediately. We are not here for theater, human. You have 20 hours left to surrender. Refusal will be met with strategic cleansing. This is your only warning. Noted, Rourke said calmly. And if I may, we've been reviewing your ship's formations. Bit heavy on the northeast coverage, don't you think? Leave the Pacific side a tad open. The line cut. Vree stared at the black screen. Then slowly turned to his aides. Was that a threat? No one answered. 30 minutes later, global defense hubs were silent. Earth's governments remained still. No missiles. No retaliation. No surrender either. What are they waiting for? Vree muttered. They should be panicking. They are resilient, muttered the tall, thin Athec advisor beside him. Historically reactive but unpredictable. Their psychological profile is inconsistent. Inconsistent? Vree snapped. Yes. They once used mustard gas on themselves before inventing penicillin. They fight wars over imaginary lines, yet cry over stray dogs. Their history is turbulent. Another screen lit up. A new transmission. Same man. Same bathrobe. Rourke again. Just checking in. Wanted to clarify something, he said, adjusting the screen. You mentioned strategic cleansing. Sounds rough. Should I start forwarding evacuation memos, or are we doing the whole show of forced speech first? Vree leaned in slowly. What are you playing at, human? Rourke grinned. Oh, I'm not playing. Just making coffee. Then he added, as if by afterthought, I'd start moving ships away from the South Pacific, by the way. There's a thing. What thing? But Rourke had already ended the feed again. 2 hours passed. Council ships moved into wider formation. Eyes turned toward the South Pacific. One scout vessel sent below cloud cover disappeared within minutes. No distress call. Just static. Then came the tremor. Orbital scans picked up a seismic surge, epicenter, Challenger deep. Temperature spike. Unnatural. A second tremor followed. This one felt aboard Triumph Supremus, even from orbit. Lights flickered. Officers swiveled to instruments. From the sea, a shape rose. Not one. 3. Colossal silhouettes breached the ocean's surface. Unmarked. Silent. Armor black with iridescent blue pulses running like veins beneath steel skin. 2 walked. 1 hovered, floating just above the waterline, surrounded by vapor trails. Each was over 2 kilometers tall. The ocean hissed where they moved. Then the first opened its mouth, no jaw, just a metallic iris, and roared. The sound split clouds and shattered 2 low-flying drones instantly. Vree stumbled. Deploy countermeasures! Beam cannons lit the sky. Explosions bloomed above the monsters. The monsters didn't even flinch. Another signal. Rourke again. Now wearing a button shirt. Holding a notepad. You fired first, he said mildly. So, Earth reserves the right to respond. We'd hoped for peaceful dialogue. Now you'll meet what we buried when we still feared ourselves. He paused. Oh, and Commander? Don't try to leave orbit. Rourke smiled again. We might it last week. Above Earth, the Supreme Armada's confidence shattered. Below, the ocean whispered secrets. Earth had responded. Not with panic. Not with weapons. But with monsters. Command deck Triumph Supremus. 30 seconds of silence. No beeping consoles, no chatter. Just the hum of a fleet unsure whether it was still in control. Commander Vree stood motionless, staring at the frozen screen. Rourke's face had just disappeared again. Calm, friendly. Like a man explaining soup etiquette before unleashing an extinction-level threat. 3 Leviathan-class constructs, muttered a tech officer. Confirmed. Powered by fusion cores. Suboceanic origin. No record in galactic archives. No known record, corrected the Athec advisor behind him, adjusting his collar. Returned. This isn't possible. Earth is a Tier 2 backwater. They still burn hydrocarbons. They debate sandwich definitions on open channels. Yes, the Athec replied. And yet one of their unmanned ocean mechs just vaporized a Class V corvette with what appears to be a sonic-based pressure cannon. Another pause. They named the machine Susan, Commander. Someone whispered from the back. Vree spun. What? Susan, the officer repeated. It's painted on the side. There was a beat of confused disbelief before the thin, red-scaled advisor leaned in. That is statistically in line with human behavior. They name warships after concepts, animals, even grandparents. It's some kind of emotional ritual. Vree clenched his jaw. Begin diplomatic fallback, he ordered. I want a face-to-face. Now. United Nations HQ, Geneva, temporary war room. The conference table was a mess. Coffee cups, data pads, half-eaten donuts, and a tactical map projected in the center. Susan was on it, big, slow, and glowing, and Earth's representatives weren't exactly dressed for war. Elias Rourke strolled in with a fresh mug and a slightly wrinkled button-up shirt. Any word from our guests? A young officer pointed to the screen. Their envoy ship just landed in Mongolia. They're asking for formal diplomatic engagement. Good, Rourke nodded. Bring out the plastic chairs. You're not serious. I'm always serious when I'm being ridiculous. Later that day, Mobile UN Station, Gobi Desert. Commander Vree stepped onto the scorched sand with all the grace of a man stepping onto a known trap. Flanked by guards, he approached the makeshift tent. A flimsy structure. 1 table. 2 folding chairs. An umbrella for shade. A single oscillating fan powered by a loud, sputtering generator. Rourke stood waiting, sunglasses on, sleeves rolled up, sipping something iced. "Commander Vree," he said warmly. "Welcome to the Gobi. Sorry about the decor, we weren't expecting company." Vree didn't sit. "This is not acceptable. We demand proper negotiation chambers." Rourke raised an eyebrow. "I mean, you're the one who showed up uninvited." Vree stared at him, unreadable. "Earth's response is disproportionate. You activated unregistered war engines hidden beneath your oceans. That's a direct breach of interstellar code." Rourke nodded, leaning forward. "You blockaded our skies, jammed our satellites, and threatened orbital cleansing." We responded. "Polite society calls that fair warning. Your ocean constructs aren't documented. Neither is our patience." There was something off about Rourke's smile. Not angry. Not smug. Just aware. Vree shifted. "You knew we were coming." Rourke shrugged. "Let's say we hoped you'd try something stupid." A breeze passed. The tent flapped lazily. Vree hissed. "This wasn't war. This was a test." Rourke took a sip. "You failed." Above Earth, Orbital Council Channel. The council was fracturing. Representatives shouted over each other, some calling for retreat, others demanding escalation. A few wanted to send anthropologists. "They drink bean fluid and taunt commanders," one ambassador yelled. "That's not a military, it's a sitcom." The Athari ambassador, ancient and slow-moving, cleared his throat. "Let us not mistake the curtain for the stage. Earth's humor is their defense. They're war machines, those are their language." The room quieted. Another feed opened. Triumph Supremus again. Rourke appeared. Not in a robe this time. Full uniform. Jacket crisp, medals understated, tone unchanged. "Ladies, gentlemen, tentacles," he greeted smoothly. "On behalf of Earth, I'd like to formally decline your invasion." Gasps. Hisses. Chattering from 3 beaks at once. Rourke continued. "We don't mind visitors, but orbital blockades are a bit rude. So we responded accordingly." "You threaten the Order of the Stars!" shouted one delegate. Rourke tilted his head. "No, we just threatened you. Slight difference." Another delegate leaned in, furious. "This is not how your kind should behave." Rourke's voice cooled. "You've read our files. You've watched our wars. You know we're unpredictable. So let me say this in simple terms." He leaned forward. "Earth doesn't start fights. But we do finish them. And when we do, we don't leave footnotes. We leave craters." Back aboard Triumph Supremus, Vree stood alone, watching Earth spin below him. His aides had gone silent. "The ocean units," he muttered. "There are more." The Athek beside him nodded. "Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Sleeping. And what activates them? Unknown." A pause. Then the advisor added, "Possibly sarcasm." Vree groaned. Meanwhile, in a hangar beneath the Mariana Trench, a mechanic named Deb tightened the final bolt on a resting mech labeled Mildred. She wiped her brow, sipped some cola, and leaned back. "Any word from upstairs?" she asked. "Aliens still hanging around," someone replied from a console. Deb grinned. "Wanna bet they blink first?" The sea boiled again. It wasn't a metaphor this time. Actual superheated plumes erupted from the southern Pacific Trench. Electromagnetic pulses scrambled nearby sensors. Clouds churned as pressure spikes rippled upward, flicking storms across thousands of miles. Weather satellites caught glimpses before going dark, massive shapes shifting under the surface like sleeping titans disturbed. From orbit, the Triumph Supremus watched the ocean roll unnaturally. No moon caused this tide. Inside the warship, Commander Vree clutched the edge of the observation rail, his eyes wide as three new constructs breached the waterline in synchronized motion. Larger than the previous leviathans. Bulkier. More organic in shape. Their limbs pulsed with geothermal energy drawn directly from Earth's tectonic seams. They have more? He rasped. Yes, Commander, said the Athec advisor, not looking away. And these are older. Below, Deep Ocean Operations Hub Bravo 9. Location, classified. Codename Barnacle. You said they'd wait, muttered the technician. Elias Rourke leaned over the console, eyes locked on the sonar images. I said they'd think they had time. There's a difference. The technician swallowed. You're activating 3 top-tier leviathans at once. That's an invitation, Rourke cut in. To what? To reconsider their assumptions. Another alert lit up the console. One of the orbital warships had locked a targeting grid over the Pacific. Rourke didn't blink. Let them. Orbit, Alien Fleet Strike Group Gamma. Captain Zinth of the Ilari Imperium prided himself on efficient warfare. 24 confirmed planetary cleansings. No survivors. No resistance. Until Earth. He tapped the comm. Target marked. Permission to fire? Vria's voice echoed across the line, tinged with static. Granted. Clean sweep. Let's end their games. Zinth smiled. Then Earth roared back. The strike never landed. Midair, as plasma warheads soared downward, a shimmering field emerged over the ocean, not energy, not matter. Something else. The atmosphere twisted. Physics faltered. Each warhead slowed. Then reversed. Zinth leaned forward. Is that wind? No, sir, a technician whispered. It's magnetic inversion. Artificial gravity field. Impossible without. The warheads turned in unison and launched back toward the ships. Zinth had time to curse once. Then nothing. Command deck Trium Supremus. They reflect weapons, Vri muttered. They reflect them. Rourke's face appeared again, this time mid-transmission, like he'd been waiting. He smiled politely. Commander. We noticed your fleet tried to throw rocks. Not very neighborly. Might I suggest you stop before one of those ships lands in your lap? Vri leaned forward, rage pulsing. What are you? Rourke's smile didn't falter. Humans. We told you that. You just didn't listen. Flashback. Project Leviathan Archive. 27 years ago. A younger Rourke stood in front of a darkened war room, briefing shadowed figures seated around a table. We won't win in orbit, he said simply. Not in a straight fight. A woman leaned forward. Then how do we stop a galactic fleet? Rourke pointed to a projection of the ocean. We don't meet them in the sky. We make them come down. And we bury the knife so deep in our own waters, no one ever thinks to look. A pause. And what happens if they do? The woman asked. Then we show them why predators don't bark. They wait. Present, Pacific Theater. The second Leviathan, designated Gloria, had fully emerged. Her body was covered in what looked like rusted plate armor, but each segment housed arrays of directed energy weapons that ran on saltwater conversion. A floating ecosystem turned war machine. One of the Council's warships tried to flank from low orbit. Gloria launched a burst of shaped plasma that ripped through 3 hulls like they were made of paper. The Council fleet began to fracture. Some ships turned to flee. Others hesitated. That hesitation cost them. Inside Earth UN Command, Tactical Overview Room. A global map blinked with red indicators, Council forces scattering. Some were trying to break orbit. Others initiating distress signals. Rourke stepped forward, quiet. How long until full orbital control? He asked. 6 hours tops, replied General Amazaki. Excellent. Activate the next wave of sonar pulses. Let the big girl wake up. There was a pause in the room. Someone whispered. You mean Betty? Rourke gave a small nod. Time to meet Grandma. Challenger Deep, 5 miles below. The signal pulsed. A distant echo answered. Something shifted on the sea floor. Crust cracked. A massive eye opened. Council emergency meeting, orbiting diplomatic hub. Chaos. Council members screamed, hissed, blinked in frantic patterns. A few were already drafting retreat orders. Others demanded orbital bombardment. But the Athari ambassador stood still. I warned you, he said quietly. You believed humanity was a child poking stars with a stick. But it was a hunter in a garden, waiting for fools. The others quieted. He continued. They don't shout. They don't posture. They offer tea while setting traps. Silence. Then a ping from a nearby console. A message. From Earth. Simple text. Still time to talk. But next one doesn't come from the sea. She is the sea. Command deck Triumph Supremus. Rourke's face returned one last time, faint static in the background. Commander, he said warmly, you've seen 3 of our girls. We've got a dozen more. And you just woke up the one we keep at the bottom because she tends to overdo it. Ree stared. What do you want? Rourke sipped his coffee, looked thoughtful. An apology would be nice. And maybe next time, knock? Then he ended the feed. Outside, a new tremor struck the sea. Strong enough to be felt in orbit. Silence hung over the Council's war room like smoke. The stars were still, but Earth was not. Every ship in the blockade had gone dark for 32 seconds after Betty surfaced. The old girl had climbed from the trench like a creature annoyed at being disturbed mid-nap. She hadn't fired. She hadn't spoken. She simply looked up. And every sensor aboard every ship glitched, spiked, or melted. She didn't need to attack. She was the threat. Aboard Triumph Supremus. Commander Vree hadn't moved in 10 minutes. His aides stood frozen, watching a looping satellite image of Betty's emergence. A swirl of silt. A glowing ribcage the size of a mountain. Plates fused with coral. Glowing red bands flickering along her sides like breathing. Vree finally spoke. That's not a weapon. No, sir, replied the Athek voice dry. That's a message. To who? To everyone else. Earth orbit, Council internal comms. This is madness, snapped the Drenari ambassador. No Tier 2 species could field this. Not in secret. Not with this scale. It's not madness, said the Athari ambassador, calm and tired. It's humanity. They never submitted to our systems. Never joined. They stalled negotiations for decades, hissed another. And we assumed it was incompetence, Athari replied. Turns out, it was strategy. UN Subcommand Node, Deep Ice Station Delta. Rourke stood inside a narrow control chamber, walls vibrating with sonar pings. Technicians typed furiously, watching waveforms shift on curved monitors. A young officer approached, hesitant. Sir, orbital forces are pulling back. 6 ships have jumped to FTL. Rourke didn't turn. Let them. Shall we pursue? No. Fear is the best ambassador we've got. Let them carry it home. The officer nodded and left. Rourke stood alone, listening to the deep rumble of tectonic groans. Betty was humming. Not in sound, vibrations. Like a whale dreamt in metal. He tapped his earpiece. Patch me through to the Council. Council Bridge, emergency assembly call. The feed lit up. Rourke appeared, face sharp, collar pressed. No smile this time. You've broken formation, he said. Wise. Vree stepped forward, forced a mask of dignity. You've made your point. Oh, this? Rourke gestured behind him, where a low-frequency vibration made the ice shelf crack in rhythmic pulses. This was barely a whisper. We planned for an invasion. We didn't hope it wouldn't happen. We prepared for when it did. You lured us, the Athari said softly. Yes. You let us position above your cities. Correct. You placed weapons below the sea. And the sand. And the polar caps. Also, lower orbit. We didn't just build a deterrent. We built a performance. One of the delegates spat. This is deception. Rourke's tone sharpened. This is survival. You came here with warships and declarations. We offered you coffee and humor. You took that as surrender. That was your mistake. He leaned closer to the feed. We are not harmless. We are just well-mannered. Aboard Triumph Supremus. Repaced. They made us believe they were unprepared. That their silence meant disorganization. They were watching us, Beathik said. For years. Studying our doctrine. Leaking misinformation. They leaked false data into our archives. We read what they wanted us to read. Vree stopped pacing. So this isn't their war plan? No, Beathik said. This is their opening. Pacific front line, aboard Gloria. The Leviathan sat motionless, ocean steaming around her armored frame. Inside, no crew. Entirely autonomous. AI laced with human sarcasm, fueled by geothermal conversion. From orbit, she looked like an island. 2 remaining warships hovered above, scanning. Gloria turned. One ship fled. The other hesitated. Then she fired a low-frequency pulse directly into the water. The resulting wave launched a wall of sea vapor into the sky, enveloping the fleeing vessel in superheated mist. No explosion. No fire. Just silence. UN High Command, Eastern Bunker. Rourke stepped back from the console, cracked his knuckles, and sighed. That should do it. An aide nearby raised a brow. You think they'll retreat for good? They'll retreat. Whether they come back depends on how embarrassed they feel when this goes public. What if they retaliate later? Rourke smiled faintly. Then we unleash Mabel. Who's Mabel? Rourke winked. She doesn't swim. She tunnels. Council, debrief channel. A formal message began transmitting to all ships in the blockade. By unanimous decision, the Galactic Council hereby lifts all quarantine restrictions on Sol 3, retracts its enforcement fleet, and recognizes Earth's autonomous defense rights in accordance with Interstellar Clause 9-13-7. Translated, don't touch Earth. Ever again. Later, UN briefing room, Earth. Reporters screamed questions. Flashbulbs popped. A giant screen looped footage of Betty staring at the clouds. Rourke stepped up to the podium. He straightened his notes. Paused. Earth was never trying to impress the galaxy. We just wanted to be left alone. But apparently, to earn peace, you have to be terrifying. He sipped his coffee. Now that we've all introduced ourselves properly, we look forward to meaningful conversations, cultural exchanges, and if you're lucky, some good old-fashioned sarcasm. Final scene, deep ocean. Betty rested on the seafloor, lights dimming. Above her, the ocean shimmered in quiet victory. Somewhere in the dark, something else shifted. Larger. Older. Still sleeping. For now.